All right, with the coronavirus going on, I'm holed up at home. I'm trying to just avoid people. I'm not really worried about getting sick or anything like that, but just trying to take some proper precautions. So, one of the things I'm going to be doing is just a lot of cooking. And this dish is for a late lunch, early dinner, and it's a bit involved. So, I'm just trying to spend some time and keep myself busy. So this is a perfect dish. So what I'm making is a lobster pasta, and I'm starting with two lobster tail that I'm going to cook until they're almost done, maybe 90%. And then I'll pick the meat out and take the shells and use that to make my cream sauce. So let's get these tails cooking as the first step. All right, I am dropping them into a pot of just fresh water. Bring it up to a boil and cook for about 7 minutes is what I'm gonna guess it's gonna need. Uh, I'm gonna salt the water just a little bit, not too much, just a tad, and wait for it to cook. All right, the lobster's cooked and it's cooled down. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a little bit of onion and celery. And I'm going to saute that until it gets softened and a little bit brown. And in the meantime, I'm going to go and pick out the lobster meat. All right, so the lobster is cool enough to handle. And I am just going to go and pick through the tails, um, which is really easy because if you have the head and the claws and stuff, that gets a little bit more tricky. But with just the tail here, it's pretty easy. So I'm going to use my scissors to cut through the carapace here and just pick these through. And I'm going to coarsely chop the tail meat into bite-sized chunks. And then I'm going to reserve the shells for the sauce because that's where we're going to get a lot of flavoring. And this is going to make, oh, I don't know, about 2 servings is what I'm thinking. So try to keep the pieces as whole as possible, even though I'm going to chop it up. I just want to preserve, when I pull it out of here, the entire tail. And the second one I'm just going to go really fast so you can, you don't have to watch it. I'll speed it up. But that's my tail. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my knife and just chop it into bite-sized pieces and reserve that just in a plate to add at the end of the sauce because we're going to reserve that meat. All right? And then with the shells here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it into tiny pieces and add it to my sauce. All right? All right, so I've picked the meat off the lobster tails, chopped them up, and I've reserved them in the fridge. And then I took the shells and chopped them into tiny pieces, added them to my onions and celery, added a clove of garlic that I crushed. I have some fresh tarragon, and then I'm adding some black ground pepper, and maybe about 1.5 to 2 cups of cream. I'm going to bring this to a boil, and then I'm going to reduce the heat to a very low simmer and cook this uncovered simmer until it's reduced by about half. And then I'm going to strain everything out of this. So that's tarragon. I don't know the exact amount. It's cooking. It's not bacon. Yeah, let this go, and I'll be back in about an hour. Okay, the sauce has been simmering away, and I've tasted it, and it's really damn good, even without the lobster meat. The flavors from the lobster shell has really infused the cream. It has reduced down quite a bit. So now I have another pot boiling just plain water, which I'm going to cook my spaghetti in. I'm going to make this with spaghetti, but I'm going to move on to the next stage, which is basically taking this off the heat and straining it into another pan. And I'm going to press on all of the solids to squeeze out all of the cream and the liquid, and I'm ready to move on to the next step when the pasta is done cooking. Alright, so I've strained it and I really pressed the solids in a strainer to get it all squeezed out, and I have this really thick, it's hard to see, but it's really thick lobster flavored cream. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to heat this up very slightly. I don't want to cook it again, and I'm just going to add, I have some cognac here, so I'm going to add maybe, call it a tablespoon and a half, and kind of cook until the cognac has incorporated and the alcohol is boiled away, and then turn off the heat and wait for the pasta. Now if this gets too thick, I have some pasta water that I can use to thin it out, because as it cools it's going to get even thicker. So we're just going to cook this until the alcohol evaporates from the cognac while my pasta is cooking, and then we'll put it together. Alright, one other thing that I forgot to mention, I do it, but I forgot to mention it, is that I grated in probably for this 2 serving, I'm going to say half a cup of Parmesan cheese. So that's just grated in and getting incorporated into the sauce. And at this time I'm going to taste for final seasoning and add the salt as well, because the pasta is almost done. And then we'll put it together. Alright, spaghetti's done. So I've added it to the sauce and also added 2 pats of butter. And now I'm just going to add in my cooked lobster meat and give it a good stir. If the sauce is too thick, I have some reserve pasta water that I'm going to thin it out with. But I want to stir this in till the butter is melted and the lobster meat is heated through. And I'm going to plate this up. So this is about 2 servings. And once it's plated, what I'm going to do is grate in some additional Parmesan on top and sprinkle with some fresh tarragon. So let's get the meat heated through and the butter melted. And this actually looks a little bit thick. So I'm going to go ahead and add in my pasta water, not too much. And yeah, get this ready to plate. Alright, plated. And I'm going to go enjoy with a nice glass of chilled white wine and have a nice weekend lunch.